Ladies and gentle beings, welcome to Memes Testing, where I play games wrong and see if they're still completable. I am back, and it seems just in time to play a game that I've been waiting on for quite some time. Back in 2022, a good friend of mine let me know that this game existed, and it was quite the shock to see the trailer at first. It gave vibes of using animals to rise up and creating an industrial revolution. Suffice it to say, my interest was a little more than piqued. Today, we'll be trying to beat Palworld without catching any pals. We will first, of course, have to identify the rules of the challenge, and just to start, let's keep it simple. Catching, for the purpose of this video, will be the act of using any type of pal sphere to obtain a pal. And with that, we can wake up in a world filled with cute and legally distinct monsters that just so happen to fit inside of our pockets. The world is our oyster, and according to our pal decks, we have to find the towers and defeat them. Seems easy enough? Okay, let's get a little base set up and see what we can find. Oh, a trader has spawned. Well, that's neat. I know it's a little early in the video to pose a moral question like this, but if I can shove a human in a ball, would they be a pal? A lot of humanoid pals look like they could be human-adjacent monsters, or at least attendants of DashCon. I'm not here to judge. But the game does draw a line in the sand for us, as this tooltip shows that humans are not pals. And with that, I feel justified to beat this man within an inch of his life and stuff him in my ball. The good news is that he can still sell me things when he is under my employ, I guess we'll call it. And he can also help craft things, which is a neat little bonus. We can now move out and attempt to set our eyes on the tower. Our singular goal, as set out by the game, is to beat all 5 of these towers. And as this game is not yet finished, we'll have to call that a win for now. But with our new buddy, we can level up a little more and move on to expanding our team. With these limitations in mind, the first thought I had would be to only catch humans. I did find a second one at the start of the game, and oh, they gave us 10 wood. What a thoughtful and kind gesture, getting my ball. Alright, 2 buddies in hand. Assumedly we can go and deal with that tower now. Oh, found a 3rd buddy on the way. Don't mind if I do. And now we can move on and scout around the area for anything we can actually use. We find a team of pal poachers and we rocket through them in an attempt to catch any that we can. Unfortunately, they don't keep the weapons that they can be seen with when they're recruited. Well, they do keep them, but they only use them for unarmed attacks. So you've got a weird situation where they have a shotgun, but they're punching them with it, and it's just kind of ineffective. Speaking of ineffective, we do reach our first major hurdle. Humans are awful. But not like you're thinking. While they only have 1 attack, and it is a low power one, I did assume this would still be possible. The main issue of this challenge is the hitbox of that attack. It is a nice attack. They do jump to close any gaps between them and the target, but it misses about 90% of the time, so it is next to worthless. I'm sure with some grinding we can maybe get past the first tower though. We load up with the best bow that we can make and a newly leveled buddy and make our way to the tower. The tower bosses are definitely a highlight of this game, as each has a unique personality, moveset, and they feel pretty good to fight. Wait, is that over 30,000 health? And a 10-minute timer. That's fine. I'm kitted out. And this is the final point of the tutorial. Surely it's possible. Oh, Oh no. I don't think I can get this done within 10 minutes. Wait, maybe Speeve can save me? Oh yeah, he can't attack anything due to his brain being made of spaghetti. Okay, fine. I guess I just need to get a gun. That's what this game was advertised as, right? Let's just go put some holes in the tower boss. We just need a furnace, and then we can make some ingots. Wait, what do you mean I need a fire pal to make ingots? Okay, just don't panic. We can't hit them, and we can't get better gear because we're too stupid to work a forge. What do we do? I have to say I was disappointed when I hit this wall. I even tried teaching my buddies how to use PAL moves like Fireball to see if they get the ability to smelt, but there is no way to teach a work skill to a PAL it does not already have. Maybe in a future update. But we do have a solution. And it took me a little while to figure it out. But when I was playing, I decided to free a PAL from its capture, just to see if we get any reward. And we do. They join you. And looking at my inventory, no PAL spheres were used up to gain this PAL. So I started a new world, and ran to the same area with absolutely nothing in my inventory, and yes, you get a PAL without the use of a ball. Some may argue that I caught this PAL, and one of them is the tutorial UI, as they count this as a catch. But at best we freed them, at worst we stole them, but by definition, we did not catch them using a sphere. So I'm counting this as fair game, because otherwise the run is dead. So now you're wondering, why is this a challenge? And I have a wonderful answer for you. It's because we have literally no control over what type of pals we have access to. As we just kind of have to hope we find a fire pal in order to proceed with any kind of industry. And, oh, the trader's back. Well, then we know he's not a pal, so I'm just gonna get him to work as we take this new pal out for a spin. And oh my, the damage. Is this what playing the game feels like? This is like 8 times the damage I've been used to. Humans really are just garbage. Well, actually having fun for the first time in a few hours, I went out exploring and found a small village. And the second most beautiful thing, a pal merchant. Now, for one, this man is sketchy as hell. He has a guillotine, and by that alone, I should probably run for the hills. But he does have a stock of pals for a few thousand each. After about half an hour exploring, I can afford to buy one of them, and luckily they do have that kindling ability. So now we can mine the ore around the base, and smelt it down into glorious metal. And those can be made into nails. Now, I am known for my love of nails, but this game does take the cake. Gold in this game is fairly light on the ground. You can find maybe up to 500 in a chest in the early game, but not super farmable. At least not without going through some hoops. And an ingot, well, that sells for 20 gold. And an ingot turns into 2 nails that are worth a total of 320 gold. Hang on, someone needs to do some math here. Yeah, this economy is screwed. So an ore pile has 20 ore, which makes 20 nails, which means if I mine an ore pile, I can buy 1 to 2 pals of my choice at that merchant. Well, the only sensible thing to do is at this point, I decided to splash out and buy a few base pals for function around the base. We needed a water pal to run the crusher and water the crops. Our starting pal can produce all the food that we need, and now this is all automated. This is actually lovely. We also have a little left over for a Catavia, as they can work the mines and provide us with infinite stone while we're away. So far, so good. But we needed some time to gain resources. But hey, we're gonna level passively due to the pals feeding themselves while we reap the rewards, so we wait, sell, and then we have a little spending spree to add a cadre of mediocre melodies to our team. After a while of managing the pals, I decided I could find a better source of ore to move the base to, so I went out hunting. And in my travels, I found a dark mine shaft. So I did the correct thing and ran into it without a second thought. This led to a much more trustworthy guillotine collector. However, this gentleman, of I am sure is of the highest repute, has a different selection of pals. Well, we must run back with every single penny I can get my grubby little hands on and throw them at his very, very sketchy face. By doing this, we have doubled, yes, doubled the production on stone and crops. So every single thing is now doubly automated, at least for the time being. Over time, we're going to pick up a new batch of pals every 30 minutes or so, but the variation is a little limited. By this point, I was about 10 hours into this journey and only level 13. Checking with friends who were also playing in tandem on a different server, they were just over double my level, while I was struggling to level up at even remotely a comfortable pace. Turns out you get bonus experience for every pal caught up until you have 10 of them. And that's why the game has you catch 5 sheep a minute into the game without any issues, as it's the main way you level up in this game. That's why I've lagged so far behind, as adding pals to our collection is not only a long process, but quite the cash investment. At this point, I decided to do what I did at the start of the game, and run around liberating any pals I can see from captivity. And as these enemy camps only have lower tier enemies, I decided to run to a much higher level area, and then find a fast travel point from which I can continually run in and try and poach a higher level pal. After several attempts, I found this camp, and we now have our new main squeeze. Not only is this pal a much higher level, but we can ride them. Unfortunately, they are apparently scaled down to your level. When you start getting around more, this game really opens up. Walking and gliding is fun for the first few hours, but a mount makes traversing things so much more palatable. Later on, when we get a flying mount, we can even Yoshi them for a lot of extra airtime if the situation calls for it. During this time, I found the mother lode. This mountain here is just a bit north of the starting area, and this was the point I found myself enjoying the game. Figuring out how to surmount this mammoth of a mountain with my limited stamina was quite the fun puzzle, albeit one of my own making, as the north face is indefinitely easier to scale, but at the time I didn't know. At the top, the absolute most beautiful sight so far, 7 ore nodes. Oh yeah, and a panorama of the entire game, including all of the towers we're going to have to fight along the way. But 7 ore nodes! Truly a marvelous sight. And a location that is absolutely fitting for our second base. My plan is to fill it to the brim with pals, and essentially have them mine the ore and craft nails, so we can level up quite a bit quicker, as buying pals is going to be our main source of leveling the character. Another secret feature of our new home involves the raid mechanic. Infrequently, a group of enemies will march on down to your base, and you and your pals will have to defend the area. This can involve making turrets that some pals can mount, erecting walls for protection, or just ignoring them because the enemies spawn outside of your base and their AI has no valid path up this mountain. Yeah. Now, apparently, according to a friend, there are raids with flying pals. That began to appear after base level 14. You guessed it, we're never leveling the base up past 14, or even to 14. Realistically, 12 is good enough. I'm not even going to risk it. I can AFK here all day. This is lovely. Sure, every time a raid happens, they all march single file to the edge and stare at the enemies they cannot reach, and most of them were smart enough not to jump to their deaths. But hey, rezzing a pal every now and again is entirely an inconvenience, and they will sit in the box until they know better. This means we have a place that we can constantly make nails, so we are flush with cash. And this leads to the discovery of hands down my favourite pal. The Black Marketeer in the cave I have been frequenting has a set pool of pals that can be bought, and one of them is Lunaris. This absolute queen looks like Eve from WALL-E was made into a Spirit Halloween costume worn by Hatsune Miku. But they are around 4 to 5k a piece, but they have Handicraft 3, the skill that is used to craft items, and yes, it does indeed max out at 3. A single Lunaris can make around 100 nails in just under a minute. We're going to be packing a squad of 4 of these bad boys, because not only are they the fastest hands around, but when you have them in your party, they provide extra carry weight. So, we are going to be running around with 4 of these and our mount, picking up every single ore deposit we can, traveling back to base, depositing them, and literally raking in the cash within our strange closed economy, selling nails to my own vendor. Where does he get the money? I am not sure. All I know is this is going to massively tip the scales in our favor on this leveling issue, as another apparent bug that was discovered at this point is that if we quit out and reload, the shop reloads. We can do this about 3 to 4 times a minute, and that is 20 pals a minute, and this experience rate is ridiculously fast. Now, at the time of writing this, I did get word from a friend that this was patched, but I don't care. I've already finished the challenge. Now that we're around level 20, we have access to the musket. And I feel pretty comfortable going into the tower for what I would like to call round 2, but it's more like round 12. I did go kind of overboard when I was thinking about giving up on that human-only run. If they ever patch the issues I reported with the humans, I will be revisiting it, but enough talk. Have at thee. At this point, I was pretty embarrassed because we are 20 hours into the game and we still haven't completed the tutorial. But collecting 30 pals and beating an overtuned behemoth of a fight like this is no short order with these restrictions. Leveling has been a very slow process. Most attacks in this fight are slow and fairly telegraphed, and in hindsight I'm very thankful for that, as when reviewing the footage I clearly did not know how the musket worked. If we interrupt that reload animation for any reason, we do not get credit for the reload. But next time we aim and fire, we dry fire the musket as if it was shot, dealing no damage. In hindsight, this looks rather amusing. During the time, I wanted to know why my gun didn't work. I assumed the game had awful hitboxes. I am not that bad of a shot, I'm clearly aiming at the big thing's face. But in the end, this tower went down without an issue. I could have done this much sooner, but this allows us to go straight to the second tower. We'll just suit up with some cold resistant clothing and head right on there. Oh, oh wow. I had no issues taking down the first one, but double the health within the same time frame? Uh, fine. I'm sure I can scrape that. I mean, I have a type advantage and a gun. I mean, this should be... Okay, so we have a gap to make up. We are out of useful pals to buy for this fight, so we're going to have to branch out a little bit. So, I did what I always do. I went and wandered around a bit, and I found two things that can help us move forward. The first is this desert settlement, gives us an infinite source of the oil we need to make the next tier of guns, so that's nice. The main draw of the location, however, is the pal merchant, who has, yes, that's right, another set of pals for us to buy. Maybe this isn't going to be so bad. Another fun thing we found nearby is hidden down in the mines, you guessed it, another sketchy boy, again with his own new set of pals to buy. Alright, surely between this we can smoosh together something useful. At worst, it means another large boost of experience as we buy 10 of everything that isn't nailed down. The main pal that I was interested in are these lovely ladies. You see, just like Lunaris, they have a ability when they're in your team, and they will send out a lightning bolt whenever you attack. On cooldown, so not every attack. But hey, 4 lovely ladies following you around, zapping everything, not awful. Even with this new setup, however, and what I assume is a lot more damage, it's not quite enough. Now, things are looking a little rough as we are around level 30 at this point, and we can't beat the second of 5 towers. Since the level cap's 50 at this point, things are quickly becoming an issue, as there's only so much more leveling I can do. Seems that the balance for the later towers may be based around the alpha pals you can get on the map. They are much larger and named alpha, so assumedly they have more stats. Haven't caught them, so I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, there is going to be an issue of just numbers on the page. The level of pals that we've had so far, while cool, don't seem to have that high of a stat spread. And from the ones I'm seeing on the map, yeah, they look much cooler and a little bit more legendary. So, whew, yeah, we're going to have to settle for these store brand pals, and that's probably going to be an issue. We're going to move on to exploring just that little bit more, and at this point, we're at 30 hours. The wiki and maps have started to show up online, which you think would be comforting, but not really. We're going to move south towards the seaside town at the south of the map, and there is a new pal merchant there. Now this is an awesome vendor right now because they are loaded with fire type pals, and we're going to find Reptyro. This is a ground and fire type, which is just amazing for our base as it both mines really fast and can smelt. They're massively in abundance at this merchant, so I figured, hey, let's get as many as I possibly can because I make all of my money through mining and smelting. Why not? Yep, turns out also a brick wall. Because this is where we introduce condensing. This is a feature of the game where you can essentially grind down all your spare pals into mush and feed it like some kind of pal candy to the main one, giving it an increase in stats. At this point, I decided to name my main squeeze Andy after my friend and just shove them all in. We now have a massively condensed brick wall, and it shows. Even though we fail this next attempt, the amount of time that Andy stays alive is about 4 times as long as any other pal. Now, I considered going and condensing more because there is a ceiling, but we haven't hit it yet, or maybe condensing the lightning ladies we have. But in the end, I decided if one Andy can take on over half of this boss, what if I just get like 5 repyros? And yeah, that does it. I didn't even need to condense the extra ones. They're just that good. I mean, realistically, they learn 100 power fire move, and that just destroys. It deals like 1400 damage. But hey, we did it. And good news, we have a fast travel down to the volcano where the third tower is. It's right next to that seaside town, so let's get moving. And at last, the game cuts us a break. At this point, I had leveled to the point where I could get a saddle for a pal that can fly, but that is also a pal that is available from a merchant. And oh wow. I enjoyed the game when I was moving around normally, but when you have the ability to fly past most obstacles, it's just amazing. That's probably just for me though, because getting wings is the best movement upgrade we've had in the last 15 hours, and honestly, it just makes the game so much better. Okay, we're going to move on to Tower 3, and I'm not sure why this person set up in a volcano. They're using lightning based pals, but hey, I guess I didn't question the grass pal in the tundra, so why would I start now? Luckily, the health did not double again, but hey, a 50% bump in health is nothing to scoff at. That timer is still there. And as I was going in immediately after the previous fight, this was not the brightest of ideas, as because in the last fight I had just about 3 minutes left, and you'll recognize that that is not 50% of 10 minutes. So we obviously failed right off the bat. So I got a few more levels in the bank, and I decided to show up with an assault rifle. No longer are we bound to the single-shot rifles. We can cut him down with a stream of lead in record time. Nothing crazy here, as we had a ground type, and he is, as on record, a brick wall. He almost lasted the whole thing by himself, and at this point I had taken to the strategy of withdrawing my Palkimon whenever a large attack was on the way. Truly, the best way I've found to dodge any attack is just to not have the target present. This has a fun upside of whenever the target disappears, they don't target me, they just seem to shoot the roof and call it a day. Alright, that was pretty painless. On to Tower 4. This guy has a Firebird, and it feels like they swapped Towers 3 and 4 bosses, as I would fit more in the volcano, but I will not poke. Overall, love his vibe, but the fight itself is going to be a little rough. I only really have fire pals leveled up, and all of my water pals are basically just for farming, so gonna have to get those leveled up. This is where I found another interesting pal, Gobfin. While he's just a little guy, he actually increases your attack power while he's in your team. Yes, just like Lunaris. This is a pal that will give me a benefit without being on the field. And that is quite a sizable attack difference. So, gonna be rocking 4 of these unless I say otherwise, because hot damn. About 60% extra attack for free? Yeah. Yeah, no, that's gonna be doing that. I found this big guy in the box, and after strapping an iron dome system to his back, we quite readily gunned down the 4th tower. Overall, not too shabby, but we are pushing level 50 at this point, so we've not really got any growth left for... Oh, Tower 5 is run by this discount Gojo. and it is by far the hardest to get to. After a long flight with our new best bud, we can easily take on the snow covered landscape of the north. We just have to deal over 350 damage per second to end this fight. And honestly, that may not be doable with our current pals, unless we absolutely max out their level. Even then, I'm only going to be comfortable going into this fight with the rocket launcher. It is the final weapon, and assumedly, it should be enough to defeat the final tower, right? Right? No. Even with this, we are out of luck. This guy is weak to dragons, and even if we rock up with 5 max level dragons, and the best weapon and armor we have available to us at this moment, the damage is just not happening. And that's a shame, because there's no other unlock we can lean on like the other towers. So, we're gonna have to get a bit creative here. And this is the point where I snapped. I was almost 70 hours into this challenge, so I'd had enough of grinding. So I did the only thing I knew that would make this happen. I went to normal mode. Yeah, this entire time I've been playing on the hard difficulty. The main difference for us is going to be that we now take 4 times less damage, and our damage is no longer cut in half. Player damage on hard mode is cut in half. I did not look at the numbers before starting the challenge. I just toggled on hard mode and continued on with my day. But that is a severe penalty. And I'm not here to say if this is possible on hard mode. I'm just checking if this is possible. With this massive increase in our damage, I also decided to bring in those goblins, because there's nothing funner than a 60% increase in your damage. And in fact, no, there is something more fun. I decided to respec my entire character, because right now, if I'm taking 4 times less damage, why do I have all this health? Why? So I respec'd with a potion I found probably 50 hours ago, and dumped about 60% of my points into attack. I'm no longer farming. I no longer care for anything but killing Gojo. So I loaded up with 4 Gobfins, one of which is the fire type, to change our attack damage to fire and still give us that attack bonus. Very nice. And a Lavander, because despite the memes, their pal ability is amazing. When they are out, their attacks heal them, and our attacks heal us for a percentage of the damage done. And, oh yes, the idea that we can regen what tiny amount of health we have at almost will, it just soothes. It just soothes me. So yes, we go ahead and try and take down Great Value Gojo. We dodge roll past every single thing, making sure that we only send out Lavander when we need to heal. And honestly, it was a breeze. It only took about 30 rockets to send Gojo back to that big airport in the sky. And yes, it is possible to beat Palworld, at least in its current state, without catching pals. Honestly, I have a massive love-hate relationship with this game, because it's amazing. And I was in awe for about 10% of the time when I was actively playing. Exploring feels amazing. Trying to figure out how to do this, however, not so much. 90% of the time, I was either AFK or stuck in a shop trying to buy pals. It just wasn't too fun. All in all, I think I would recommend this game to anyone that likes the idea of it, but playing with this restriction is just not it. I isolated myself from my friends who were playing this at the same time as me, and the best time I had with this challenge was actually theorizing with them on how to eke out that little bit more damage, or them reporting back excitedly to say they'd found a new black marketeer, just in case there was a new pal that I could use for the challenge. I will likely come back to this game at some point, but next time we're going to be heading back to an old favourite to have another bird adjacent challenge. If you are still here, I appreciate your time, and if you think it was well spent, a like or subscribe goes a long way to letting me know that. If you have suggestions for any other challenges, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you when we do the next thing.